Good evening. I have a very special guest for you tonight. I have wanted to have this fella on for a while. We go way back. There's lots of shenanigans involved. But first, let's get to some beekeeping stuff. Let's also talk a little bit about the North American Honeybee Expo, and then we'll get into, I think, a fascinating conversation, and you're going to learn a lot from it. I might even learn something from it, but he's old news to me. So that being said, guys, the North American Honeybee Expo is got a lot more attendees already signed up than we've ever had before at this point. So it's shaping up to be a really exciting year. The vendors, same thing. We are really in a little bit of a good bind, so to speak. We have so many new vendors. We also have old vendors who are really wanting to have a bigger show this year. It's really impressive to see every year the companies want to grow and show more stuff and entertain you all as well. And so this year's Bee Expo, I think, is going to be, well, the best, and it better be because Chris says it was going to. So he's promised, and so now he's got to deliver. A couple things to announce in regards to the Expo details. August 15th, the tickets go up again in price. And so if you're knowing for sure that you want to go and you're planning to go ahead and get those tickets so that you can get an earlier price point. August 15th, the tickets do go up again. Vendors, we are still accepting applications, but we are almost full. Like, if we include our waiting lists with what we've already approved, we are at maximum capacity. We are thinking we're going to be able to be creative and create some more spots, but it's not going to be a lot. So if you're serious about vending this year and you haven't, you better get it done because it's first come, first serve, or you're going to have to be really something super special, honestly, to get in. It's a lot of different things. There's vendors wanting bigger spaces, but there's also new vendors. And we're not able to expand the size of the trade show this year. We have there's other spaces, of course, but they either don't connect to us or there is another conference that is loading into those rooms, and that's for the next weekend. So we can't use them. And so that's going to eliminate some of the things that we would like to be able to do. However, we will have the best, most competitive trade show that we've ever had before. And we're going to be moving the food out, and I believe, into the hallway. It's looking very promising. So that's going to open up some more booth spaces where we had the food last year, if you were there. Now, the hotel has plenty of rooms left. Sometimes you have to call and talk to these people. It's best to go through Louisville Tourism, and that is on our website. But sometimes these people they struggle to get things done the proper way. So there are plenty of rooms in all the hotels at this point. Sometimes the website is down. You need to call, but the best way to do it is to go to the website, our website, and there's a contact page for Louisville Tourism to get the best deals. If you're curious about the honey swap, that's on the website. Honey show details are just right around the corner. And last but not least, if you know somebody or if you are someone who fits in the age range of 10 to 20, we have our next gen program, and we have a great start with a bunch of young men and women who have applied already. But the deadline to send in your applications is August 31st. And then we'll be announcing around the second week of September, sending emails to those young men and women who are going to get a full ride and a great experience. So if you know somebody or if you're wanting to do that, don't wait. All right. So that is the Bee Expo stuff. And we have a special guest. We also have a couple things to talk about beekeeping wise. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that on the front end of this conversation. The main thing right now, folks, is it's August. And August and September and the majority of North America is a very critical time to make sure that you have the best bees going into winter. Your mite loads need to be down now, or you need to be getting them down right now. And then you need to be making sure that your bees have plenty of food. Some areas there's a flow going on. Some areas there is no flow going on. Whatever it is, you need to assess what's going on in your colonies and make sure there's plenty of food and make sure that there's no queen issues. And get those colonies ready for the fall flow. Hopefully it'll be beneficial and you'll have very strong fat bees, ideally going into winter. And so that's the main thing right now. There's some good questions. I have one that I promised I would get to, and I'm going to grab that here in just a second. We have some of our members chiming in, and we will be taking your questions with our guest, Zak Heintzelman, here in just a bit. I never can find my stuff on here. YouTube. See, people assume that I know what I'm doing with all this stuff. Laurel and Chris basically do all that kind of thing. All right, here it is. I made a post earlier and told people to leave some questions. So I have one from one of our members, Don Kennedy. My queens keep laying in the upper brood boxes and packing the lower boxes with nectar and pollen. Should I reverse boxes or just manipulate frames to get them ready to cluster in the bottom once the cold weather gets here? Well, Don, that's pretty normal for that to happen. I see the majority of my colonies that way. The queens want to go up. Most of the bee bread gets put down below. Now, as far as most of the honey, I would say that a lot of that gets pushed up towards the top. But if there's plenty of room up there, she'll lay up there. And once queens go up, they are more reluctant to go down than they are to go up. I wouldn't worry about it this time of the year. If she's laying good and she has space to lay, it's fine. It's still pretty early. What I would want to do, though, is eval as things progress. If you have a good fall flow, they'll probably pack a pretty good bit in that top box, and that'll push her more towards the bottom. But, if they are already pretty packed full of food, you may need to put a little bit of space on there, maybe a super, or better yet, what I'm doing with some of my biggest double deeps right now is putting on a third box of foundation and pulling up a frame of eggs and larvae. And I'm feeding a little bit, and I'm hoping to get some from the fall flow, get some extra drawn combs. But I'm going to wait here in Tennessee until probably October before I start manipulating frames. And at that point, yes, I want the frames of honey up towards the top and any brood that's left in October towards the bottom. But right now, in a yard of 40 hives or so, it's all over the place. All right. So we will take more of your beekeeping questions later. I hope that you have some for our special guest. Our special guest is Zak Heintzelman. He's an old friend of mine. We've known each other for quite a while. He's a queen producer on the Big Island of Hawaiʻi, and I think does a fantastic job of it. I've ordered queens from him many times, and I've ordered a lot of queens over the last 20-odd years. And I've got to say, there are amongst the best. And I hate really saying that because his ego is just going to get more out of control. But all jokes aside, I've got a lot of queens from Georgia, California, Florida, a lot of friends, and big names like Bob Benny and Michael Palmer. And I have to say, Zach's are up there with those when it comes to acceptance and consistency. So that I've seen as Zak has progressed over the years, and every year just seems to get better. And that's really cool to watch and learn from the side. Because I do raise my own queens, but not like Zak does at the scale that he does. So without further ado, Zak Heintzelman. Hey, Zak, thanks for joining us.
Hi. Yeah.
So, Zak, I got a lot of questions for you, and there's no pressure. It's just going to be public shame if you totally goof.
It's all good.
It's all good. Well, this is the Kamon Reynolds show, and everyone expects professionalism.
Oh yeah, they all come here for the jokes.
Yeah, pretty much, and half of them are towards me and how short I am. So, I mentioned a little bit about what you do, but what does your operation actually currently do and produce? Because it's more than just queens.
So I'm Heintzleman Apiaries, and you can look that up on Facebook if you want to look at all the pictures. Right now, I focus on queens, and producing good queens, you have healthy hives, and we all know healthy hives make a lot of honey. So I spend half my time making queens and half my time dealing with the honey. And it's back and forth all year. So it's just schedule it out in December, and I just look at the schedule every day and go by what it says.
So, are you trying to? I know when you started there in Hawaii, there were some challenges. And what was, the biggest surprise when you started raising queens in Hawaii? The challenges about doing that.
The rain can be an issue. The amount of honey in the nukes can be an issue. I when you were over here, we were running. I think I had the 3x3 queen castles, and then I had my own little 5-frame nuke that I divided into a 3-frame and a 2-frame.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting 2 queens out of each box. Yeah. When the deep frames got full of honey, and you're catching 150 holes a day, your arms really started getting sore at the end of the week, and you're lifting full 10-pound frames of honey. So we transitioned from the standard deep frames, and we're going over to the double styrofoam frames, which are like 6 5/8 cut in half.
Interesting. So you're producing honey out of nukes. How much of the honey that you produce do you think comes from nucleus colonies?
Not as much now as it did in the beginning. I learned pretty quick that the weaker the nuke, the less honey it would make.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not saying it's like a weak, sick little hive. We're just saying it's not boiling bees out the front, So you always, when you're catching out, you're trying to balance the nuke, each one, and trying to control the population. You don't want to get too big, because I run a 21+ day cycle. From when you catch and you come back, it can be, they can make a lot of honey in that short of time. So it was just all about balancing and trying to cut them back.
Making honey out of nucleus colonies. Crazy. So how many drums do you think of honey are you going to make this year?
Oh, a lot.
Well, a lot to some of us is 5 drums. So, I mean.
Well, oh yeah, no, I bet I finished the year probably just under 100, somewhere around there would be my guess. Maybe 80 to 100 drums.
That's a lot of honey.
It's a lot of honey. Yeah.
So what are you mainly getting that honey from there on the Big Island?
Well, we really have like 3 major honey flows. The macadamia nut, which is, when we made the videos last time you were over here, we were always in the mac nut orchards. Mm-hmm. Then the next one is Lehua ohia trees. That's only in Hawaii, and that's a nice white creamy honey. And then the end of the fall one would be Christmas berry over here. But if you're in Florida, it's Brazilian pepper. It's a real yellow and bitter honey. But it's a major invasive over here, so it is literally everywhere, and all the yards will make honey off of it, with the exception of going up to like 6,000 feet or something like that.
That was really shocking to me when I landed on the Big Island. You kind of said, "Hey, man, I'm catching queens. You want to help me or not, or whatever?" You had a lot going on, and I, really wanted to see what it's like. But it really blew me away, because it's a kind of a duh thing, but seeing pictures of and experiencing basically a mountain shooting out of the middle of the Pacific, where a volcano, that was created a mountain. It's mind blowing, the elevation differences and the different climates that are so, really quickly stacked on each other is shocking. So we went from areas that had a few inches of rain a year to areas not too far away that just had 100 inches of rain or more a year. So really weird.
Yeah, well, when you were helping me and we were in Kauai, that's like a 0 to 3 inches a year, and 20 minutes up the road you can get up to 100+ inches. And I can't remember if I think you went to the wet yard with me. We got rained on up there.
Oh yeah,
But
we got rained on. We got cooked. I survived on apple bananas the whole time.
and durian. Don't forget the durian.
That was the second trip.
Oh, that was the second trip. That's right.
Yeah.
It's been so long now. It's
I,
all
I
blurring together.
I know those durians stank. It's the worst fruit. I'd have to be starving before I ate that stuff willingly again. So let's back up a little bit. You're the same age as I am. We're close to it. You're a few months older than me, if I remember correctly. Born in 1988. So
Yep.
I'm 36. You're 37 right now.
Yep.
And how did you get into bees? What was the thing that kind of triggered it?
Oh, I think it was back when I was 19, 20. I was working in a warehouse job back in Dixon, Illinois, and I was missing being outside so much. And my old boss from my high school job, which was a caretaking job for the Walgreens estates, they ordered bees for the Walgreens estates, and I piggybacked on that order and got a package or two. I can't quite remember. And then from there, it went from 2 to 12. And I found like a local beekeeper, kind of like an old hippie guy, and he was having some health problems and needed some help taking care of some of his hives. So 2 to 12 to like 50. And then, with that many hives, you're making some honey, and I was selling it at the farmer's market, and I was like, oh, I can make some money here, So
so much money to be made in beekeeping.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it was good for a Saturday. You go sit at the farmer's market and you move some jars, and
you're not wrong.
It was good. And yeah, I mean, that was right around when we got on Bee Source. That was where I was getting all my information. Mm-hmm. I think we were chatting around there with me, you, Gus, Jed, Roy.
Yeah.
Ray.
Yeah, Ray. Rest in peace. And so, it's bizarre because none of us ever. I don't think any of us thought we'd all end up here. So, Jed is for those of you who are watching and don't know, Jed is Jed Thorne of Thorne Manufacturing that does all the Wisconsin-made bottling tanks and extractors, and so he's a little bit younger and less mature than Zach and I, but he's coming along. We're coaching him up, and then of course many of you know Gus Mitchell, and that's where we met Gus from, and so Zach, and that's where I met Zach and Jed, and all of us met each other through that, and it was a really small chat, but funny enough, it's been, I think, for me a real blessing long term. I've learned a lot from all of those guys, and had a lot of tips and a lot of, hey, that's stupid moments. Where some of these guys are like, what are you doing that for? Or why don't you try to do this? Yeah, Zach's been real gentle in his approach to helping correct me. So that's how we met. I got a couple good questions. We'll go ahead and insert them real quick. This one's from Brad. What are the characteristics of the queen bees that you raise? Temperament, honey production, disease resistance, wintering ability. That's a funny one.
So if you look up some of the statistics, like Kona, Hawaii, the island ships a lot of the queens to Canada too. Yeah. So your wintering ability is, I would say, high. I personally don't think it matters what queen you have, but I don't have to worry about wintering here. Obviously, I raise Cordovan Italians, kind of it's like the red bee, super gentle and highly productive in the brood factories. So they just don't stop. If you're in an area where you don't have heavy honey flow year round, you definitely got to watch them. But they get big quick. Most of my queen customers are the almond guys, the pollinators. So they want year round brood for the most part. There's a couple of them that don't, but we let's see, four 4 years ago, we started doing instrumental insemination. And that was with Megan Mahoney, shout out. And we operate on the Page Laidlaw breeding program. If you want to get deep dive into that, it's a good read. But it's selecting the best out of a closed population without inbreeding, pretty much.
And you guys can't, you can ship bees off island, but I can't ship you a queen. It's
no, you can't bring in any used bee equipment, and you can't bring in any bees. So I fly Megan in every fall, and she brings in vials of semen through these little test tubes, and they come through security, and TSA always has a problem with them. And then we sit in my garage, and I have the whole the microscope and the instrument to hold the queen and everything. And we do about 100 breeders, 75 to 100, depending on the year. And if I have orders for them, because I've had I've had people request breeders, and I'll ship them out to them in the spring. But,
well, you had the queens that you had 5 or 6 years ago. I've been able to see a noticeable improvement, and it's not that they were bad, but they just consistency wise, it's really impressive. I think I got 20 something from you this year, maybe a little under 30, something. It was 28. Yeah. And I had once again really good success with introduction. I was actually looking at a handful of them yesterday, and I just had a bunch of extra bees from the nuke seeds, and I didn't know what to do with. A lot of brood left over, so I just threw 3 or 4 frames of brood with some foundation, threw one of your queens in, and just walked away. And man, they look great. I had, not to my knowledge, I didn't have any misses either, which I think is mostly a testament on my splitting capabilities and introduction. But no, great queens. The winter ability, you brought that up. Ian has one of his breeder queens lines is from a Hawaiian queen. And so, there probably is maybe a little bit of stuff to it. But ultimately, if you've got a really good, healthy population of bees, it's hard to beat a big cluster of fat bees. And that's pretty much it to me. But as far as honey production, I've had good success with very good honey production. I remember last year I made some splits prior to going up to Wisconsin, and I made honey off of those queens. They were with your queens. So Brad's got another question. How many queens do you raise a year?
I try to do between 5,000 and 10,000. I won't give you the exact number, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. Well, and trying to find good help is also a little difficult, isn't it? It's a lot for you. Do most of those stuff yourself, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I do have a consistent helper, Cole. Shout out Cole. He if I text him and I need help, he pretty much will work me into his schedule. He also does bees, a little bit smaller scale, but he tracked me down, seen me driving around the truck, and got a hold of me and wanted to work, and he's good. It's awesome. Nice having somebody that even if the surf's up, he'll still show up. So
once you got into bees and you got some packages, you kind of got some things going, how did you get from, hobbyist to the point that you are now producing thousands of queens a year and producing upwards of 100 drums of honey and other things as well? I mean, so because you definitely have put a lot of energy into this over the last several years. So how did you go to running bees in Hawaii?
Well, from our bee source chat days, once I realized I was making money at the farmer's market, I decided that I wanted to do it as a job. So I got the American Bee Journal and went to the back of the classifieds.
Mhm.
And the first number I called was Gary Oreskovic and John Del Rosa. They run Honeyland Farms.
Mhm.
I think Chris worked for Gary back in his youth.
Chris Warner.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
He was pre me, but
there's a lot of Chris's out there. You have to be a lot more specific.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I pretty much gave my 2-week notice, and John flew me down to Florida after I was done with that job, and then finished up down in Florida, and then went back up and did the Wisconsin year, and then went back down to Florida. And one of those trips is when I stayed at your house and we stopped and looked at your yards and corrected some things.
There was nothing to correct. Those are some of the best bees you'd ever seen in the state of Tennessee.
I mean, when I walked into the barn and seen the pile of frames and said, "Where's all your foundation at?" And you said, "Oh, I just stick them right in the hive like that."
Yeah, that's right. I tried a couple thousand frames of foundationless that year, and that was an interesting lesson. You know, some people, they don't really know things. They've like you don't know that. You think that you know that you shouldn't do that, but I actually have the experience of knowing that you should not do foundationless like that. I think I finally got rid of all those frames. I think that finally got rid of them.
You texted me last year. I think it was last year when you found another one.
I did find one. Actually,
I'm sure you'll find another one.
No way. I think I burned one today. Actually, that was foundationless. But yeah, I was one of the biggest advantages that I've been recommending that the next gen program take advantage of is after observing Blake Shook and observing a few other people who are around the same age as me. I always recommend, hey, I know sometimes you want to do your own thing, but go work for somebody else who's successful for a while, because you learn a lot of really valuable things. And sometimes you can learn from their mistakes, or you can just see how it works. So if you do the wrong thing, you know what you kind of have a measuring stick. Whereas I didn't, basically, I read bee books, but I've never worked for a commercial beekeeper. And so I think that was to my disadvantage.
You came over and worked with me.
Well, okay. Yes, I did. And that honestly was a good moment. I learned a lot from that. And it was also quite fun. And it was a beautiful trip. The Big Island is quite gorgeous. But on that note of learning things from other people, and I think that's probably the best thing that's come out of all my mistakes and doing things the hard way, is I really have a lot of information to share of how not to do things with this YouTube channel. And it's definitely usually firsthand, because I'm really good at finding the worst way of doing things. So on that note, learning from other people, I also learned how to wax dip boxes from you and the advantages of that. And, there's some people online that say that that's new technology, but, what do you have to say about that, Zach? Where'd you learn some of that from?
I learned that down in Florida. Gary had been wax dipping. I don't recall if he even had a painted box. So he had been doing it a very long time. And he was just doing a straight paraffin dip, with copper in it. And he had some really old boxes that were pretty much pristine.
And those guys, you never know how long that's been going on. There's probably no way of finding out who was the first person to start doing that, but I know it's been going on at least since the 80s, or because I've seen boxes that were branded 1986 that were wax dipped.
For sure. There was for sure boxes that were that old.
And so it's been around for a long time. It just took a long time for it to get to the smaller scale beekeepers. I'm sure there were some small scale guys, I'm sure, that knew about it from their buddies that were commercial and were doing it. But as a industry, we have not gotten there. until kind of recently. And I was talking to Jed Thorne about his tanks, and they're there's one of the most popular things. I mean, people are buying these tanks and wax dipping, and I hate painting. I do not enjoy it. But I had a question for you, Zach, because last time I was over there, you and David Davenport um, you do wax dipping, use I think the same tank, but David likes to paint his too. I guess he doesn't like the look of wax dip boxes once they get a little bit darker. Um, how is that working out for him? And does it hold up pretty good, the paint?
Yeah, those boxes are beautiful. I wish all mine looked like that.
It's just a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but hey, they look good. They look almost as good as the day he did it. And yeah, shout out to David. I rent from him, and if he built my other wax tank, and he let me use his wax tank, and you used his wax tank too, and it was he's a good friend.
He's a good guy. So some of you may, and some of these videos are like 3 or 4 years old, and some of them may be a little older than that. But if you've seen the video where I was talking to a gentleman about a hive lifter that he made that would pick up 2 hives at a time. David Davenport was the one who fabbed and created that boom lift with the 2-way pallet loader. It's kind of like an Ian Stepler version, maybe not quite as fancy, but it works quite good for him. And he also, I have a video with David where he shows using a old Maxent tank to separate wax and do all that. David is in large part an inspiration for part of the Thorne wax melting tank. And so, yeah, Zach and David, whether they realize it or not, have caused a lot of ruckus in the industry whether they meant to or not. They just keep turning the tables over.
Giving all this information freely.
That's right. Hey, man, you know I've got your back. So I found a link online. I'm fixing to drop it down below. This, I believe, is the type of mating nuke that Zach is currently using, and they're like HalfFrames. And so what's the advantage of that versus a deep frame other than the weight of it? What are you kind of looking for? Because I know there's a lot of guys that are using like baby nukes and various things, so what are you looking for in a nucleus colony?
Well, the baby nukes, like the minis, those didn't work on the 21-day schedule. And the Beetles love them here. So I went to the next size up, which is those styrofoam double ones. And it takes less resources to get them going. Mm-hmm. And they have built-in feeders, right? So yes, you don't have to feed all the time, but you can, if you need to feed, there's that variability or ability to, and it's a lot lighter on my arms. The frames don't get that heavy.
But it's the repetition, with a lot of it too. It's like, you've been doing this your entire career. Oh, thanks, Chris. That's a lot better. So is this something similar to what you're using right here?
Yeah, I have, let's see, I have 75 of those left. The cons to those is when you take them out of production, like, I could, you can run bees year round, but I take a percentage of them out so I can manage the holidays and spend some time with family. The wax moth will eat through them. They'll eat holes right through them, and then they don't hold feed. The mice can chew right through them too. I got some where the whole front of them is just one big hole, and I still got bees in them this year, but they'll probably be retired. I actually I switched away from the styrofoam ones and made them out of the grow boxes. I'm not sure if you've seen those, but it's the same size frame like that. Mm-hmm. You can get a feeder and 4 of those little frames in it, and I can get them up off the ground, build custom bottoms and some steel legs. So termites and moisture are the real deal here. Even with my wax dipping, it's like 7 years if anything on the grounds is like the longest I've had so far. So it's getting away from as much ground contact as possible.
Sure. Well, you guys basically can rot something year round there, and then the termites and all the microorganisms, the wonderful microorganisms and all that kind of stuff. But you guys definitely have some interesting challenges. One of them you mentioned already, which was, you're working bees and queens 12 months out of the year. There's no break. And I really love my break. Usually by about September, I'm kind of little over it a little bit, and I kind of would like a little time away. By the end of January, I'm just foaming at the mouth to get back to bees, but that break is a nice little reset. So you've kind of worked it into your schedule, it sounds like, the last year or two to kind of slow down at least a little bit.
Yeah, from Black Friday on, shipping off the island is very risky, I should say, because you're shipping all the holiday packages, and you definitely don't want your box of queens to get plugged up in a full container. They can get hot pretty quick. So
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I just quit I don't ship after Thanksgiving, after Black Friday. So from there on, I pretty much just stop. I move them up to a different honey flow and let them either die out or recover. And like last year on those queen castles, I put an excluder on them and let them make honey, and ended up with a couple deeps of eucalyptus off of the queen castles. I think with these little grow boxes that I'm doing, I'm just gonna feed through. If there's any, the after Christmas berry and Kona here, there's not really much that honey wise. So I think I'll feed through instead of moving them to a flow.
Which is something that you could do, but I mean, that's the problem though, is you don't get a whole lot of breaks if you could be full throttle in Hawaii 12 months out of the year if you wanted to. You could easily just go full throttle.
Yeah, I can make them make drones all year. Let's see, probably early December, you could put a drone frame right in the middle of the brood nest and throw a pollen sub on there, even with pollen coming in and nectar coming in still. The shorter days, they're reluctant. It's like going against the timing. But you could still get them to fill frames, and by mid-January they're rearing and ready to go again.
So Nick has a question kind of in regards to the shipping of them. He's like, do you ship UPS or FedEx? I've had better experience with FedEx this year, he says. Seems like UPS doesn't want to let us pick up at the hubs anymore.
No, there's no more hub pickups or drop-offs, but UPS really hasn't done me wrong too bad. I mean, there's been a couple things here and there, but this year's been good for the most part. Other than they always have like mystery charges that pop up after you pay. But yeah, I figure UPS is working. Why change?
Yeah, well, and the hub thing is a disappointment, but so far, all the queens that I've had shipped through UPS, I haven't had any bad experiences. Now, USPS, that's a little bit of a different story, one I won't get into right now. But, even with Hawaii, you have these more ideal conditions because you have these major flows and you have pollen. But on your end, trying to produce all of these queens consistently, what are the most important things that you think it takes to be a queen producer that is able to consistently put out a good product, but also is able to handle the scale that you're handling? Because it's not just a couple of queens here and there.
Well, I personally prefer the 21 plus day queens. I like to see a good brood pattern. I like probably, let's see, 10 drone frames per 150 holes, and at least within the area, if not the same yard.
So explain what a hole is to the folks. I know what you're talking about, but I don't think anyone else, most of the people probably don't know what that is.
So I have one box, one grow box. There's an entrance on each side. Therefore, instead of saying I have 75 boxes in one yard, I actually have 150 holes of potential queens per yard.
So you're made, I guess to our terms, you've got 75 boxes with 150 mating nukes, or mating, but you call them holes.
Yeah.
So 150. So so you're saying drone frames, you're putting how many drones?
10 frames, like 10 drone hives.
Okay.
And I mean, there's more bees within pretty much all my yards, but I try to have the drone frames to saturate them.
Yeah, get plenty of good drones out there. So 365 days out of the year, you're either doing queens or you're doing something, but mites are also doing something, and so are small hive beetles. So how are you coping with that? With just constantly having to deal with mites and beetles.
Well, I like the oxalic acid, the slow release stuff, and the formic acid. All legal stuff.
Yes,
nothing shenanigans going on here.
it's Hawaii. Always has to be on the up and up.
Yep.
Nothing but good citizens obeying every rule. So the last time Laurel and I went to Hawaii, I've been 3 times and she's been with me twice. It was during COVID. Wait, or was that the first time? Okay, I think maybe it was the first time. Yeah.
I think that was the first time.
Yeah, it was. And it was during COVID. And we had to go through all the rigmarole of taking a test over here. But you couldn't just get it at Walgreens, but the internet was all over the place and it was really hard to tell. And we had both tested negative over here. And then you had to take another test once you got over there. But it was really shocking because there were these girls who took a test here in the United States, but it was through Walgreens and it wasn't high enough of a standard for whatever was okay. So they refused to test them right in front of us and just immediately said, nope. And you're on lockdown for like 10 days. And, which blew us away. It made us nervous because I'm like, holy crap, if we test positive, we're fixing to be locked down.
Oh, yeah. They locked people down. It was intense.
Crazy. Thankfully, we both, I mean, when they swabbed me, they touched my brain. I mean, they went way up there with that swab. Thankfully, we both tested negative. And boy, what a nerve-wracking time that was. But the best part was we had Hawaii mostly to ourselves. There wasn't, or the Big Island rather, it was not busy with tourism at all. And we just had the best trip. And we filmed some of the videos. I think that was when we did the macadamia nut shots with you and and some of the other videos. And so it was a really nice time. Laurel really wants to go back. I need to get with it, I suppose. All this conference and beekeeping stuff just keeps me busy. The kids are starting to do a lot more too. That makes it a little trickier, but
well, next you'll have to be bringing them.
they want to come so bad, especially my 13-year-old daughter. It's hard to believe.
Boy.
Yeah. So she just thinks that right now horses and the thoughts of going to a tropical island are just super magical. And really it is. I mean, it's a beautiful place to visit.
Well, my wife, her aunt lives here and she has a horse stables and everything. And she does dressage. So if you come, we'll go up there and say hi.
Oh yeah. Kathleen would have a heart attack and die. So, what is something, switching gears, that you would like to see done in the bee industry, or something that would be useful for your operation that's not being done? Is there anything kind of that you would like to, whether it's industry or whether something that would affect your business that you would like to see change?
Oh, I mean, the honey prices, those always need to go up. It's not enough.
So, do you mind asking what Hawaiian barrel prices are right now?
Um, most of it, I think, gets like, like the barrel itself or the
Just
drums.
like, yeah, what can you guys, I know like South Dakota's got their barrel price. What's a barrel price like in Hawaii?
I mean, if usually you got to ship it off island.
Just not enough people to buy it locally.
No.
We just
So,
need
you're shipping to like any of the packers that'll take it if they will even call you back.
if they'll even call you back. So,
Because the shipping's the issue, yeah. Like, it could be like $7,000 to $10,000 just to ship a container back, and that just they have to pay shipping. It just eats into the profits,
it makes sense. That was one of the things that blew me away the most is the cost of shipping for everything on the island is just that's the main thing. It's just like, well, you better make sure that you really want this because the shipping was so expensive.
Yeah, I mean that was another thing. Like, you're always fighting the urge to buy the cheapest box you can get, and because I have a hard time finding trustworthy labor that can operate a nail gun. I want to buy everything assembled so I don't have to do it. Well, now a full box instead of just an unassembled box is a lot more shipping error than just a pallet of unassembled equipment. But
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking like $800 a pallet. That adds to those boxes real quick.
Yeah, if they're already assembled.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna buy boxes, those grow boxes. I bought those Premier boxes, and they are nice.
Aren't they really nice?
I'll do a shout out to them because, boy, when they square up, like when you're pushing them together and they just square up on their own, it is so nice.
Yeah. My son Jimmy, he's 9, they square up so good. I can just have him assembling them, and at 9 years old, I can't staple them together any faster hardly than he can pound some of those boxes together. He is as fast as most guys now, but he loves it. He's probably assembled 300 or 400 of them, and they are a really nice box for no other reason than just squaring. They're really cool.
Yeah, and I'll give another shout out to Premier. I mean, he's called me, I think, twice now.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else is ordering equipment and there's room on a pallet, and he just, hey, do you need anything? And no, I don't need anything, but oh boy, thanks for calling and trying to save me a little shipping cost. I really appreciate that, the quality, and the extra step.
It is nice, and that's one of the things on my end that I'm loving to see is we're seeing some newer companies come into the industry and bring back maybe a little bit more customer service, which I think is helping some of the other companies wake up to a little bit more customer service too. A little bit of pressure never hurt anybody.
Hey, I have boxes from just about everybody, and until something goes wrong with these Premier boxes that I don't like, I will order again and again.
Well, I'll let the boys there know I've got a bunch of them, and we have them at the show each year, and it's really cool to see the different groups. I was really skeptical at first because box joints has just been, that's what you get. You have box joint, everybody uses them. So when they came out with those, I was like, man, I just don't see that working out. But no, I haven't had any issues. To the contrary, it saves me a lot of time on assembling boxes. It's actually quite shocking, the headache that it takes away from it.
Well, like even the little frame, at the bottom bar, and that little groove, that little W that goes up in between the frames, and you're putting your staple in there. It's not crunching that frame up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't had one of them break yet in the Colin.
Oh yeah. So that was one of the things that I really respected when they went to design that frame. They called me, they called several other commercial beekeepers and asked what they wanted before they designed the frame. And all the guys were saying, make sure this is this size. And most of the guys, like myself, are saying make sure it feeds through a Cowan line.
For sure.
And
I won't say who it was, but I got a lot of frames from somebody, and I mean, Colin says that they were measured right, but they were not. and boy, there's a lot of broken frames in my boxes. You know, the sidebars break off of them, like that little wedge, or
yeah.
you know, they crack, or it's a bummer. You get what you pay for.
You do, and I really like the thick top bars, and this, everything about the frame is really beefy. And you know, I understand that some of the guys are okay with a thinner frame, like the Man Lake ones, because maybe they're trying to not to keep the weight down on moving bees from location to location, I suppose.
Yeah.
But for me, the frames is like, dadgummit, another one broke, and I just hate that. And I personally like the thicker top bars and bottom bars and end bars. It's just bee equipment, especially frames that are full of honey. And that's the thing, you're dealing with a lot of honey over there. So you're dealing with a lot of frames that have a lot of weight to them. So they've got to be able to withstand a lot of that abuse. Because that's usually when I'm breaking frames is honey related situations. It's full and oh, doggone it, it slipped and just ding, there goes the ears right off the frame.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And my son Jimmy, I'm like, no, dadgummit. But that's how you learn, by breaking stuff, I suppose. So we have several people asking questions, folks. Now's the time for questions for Zak. I think I've got maybe one or two myself, and then we're going to go to your questions. So Zak, if there was a teenager that was like you or me, that was serious about beekeeping, maybe it's one of our next gen kids, and you know they're wanting to become a full-time beekeeper or a sideliner, you know, that's running 100 or 200 colonies, you know, what kind of advice would you have for them if they were wanting to get into this serious?
Well, from my experience, it's all just a numbers game. If you have, you know, 10 hives, you're only looking at 10 hives. It's 10 chances to see things going wrong. Like for me, whenever I have people help me or anything like that, it's just the basics. You just repeat the basics over and over and over again. So I would suggest going and working for a guy that has a lot of bees, 1,000 plus. Gary had 6,000. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we were just working bees every day, and you just see so many different variables, and you know, every hive can look different, or you know, you want to try to make them consistent, but oh, this one's making a different sound. This one smells different. This one's mean. This one's got beetles. This one's, you know, all these different variables. You see all that. And the only way to see that is cracking lids.
Yeah. Getting that frame time in. And, you know, one of the questions that I got in my Facebook group recently was about feeding. And I made a comment about, you know, there should be an end goal for that, because what we find is, especially the very brand new beekeepers, some of them don't realize, or they've been told that bees in a dearth period will stop taking feed whenever they have enough, which is ridiculous. I mean, you have a really powerful colony and it's full on dearth. As much as you give them is as much as they're going to take until.
I mean, like here, you know, with the honey flows, they don't ever stop. They're never satisfied. it's always making more and more and more. And you can feed until you're, you know, forever, and they will just keep taking it.
They will. And, you know, that's what makes them such a unique critter compared to the rest of them. Because there's a lot of other honeybee species out there, and there's a lot of other bees, and they don't, you know, they get to a certain point and they're done, or they just, you know, like a bumblebee, a very small, you know, 40 members to the colony. And so it's just a very different experience with honeybees. And so these new beekeepers, you know, they don't, you know, you talked about getting, you know, cracking lids, getting that frame time, but a lot of it is, okay, as a new beekeeper, what's enough food? Yeah. You know, should I be feeding? And then how to gauge that. And so there's just a lot of variables to this industry, and getting a good mentor, or like you said, even better, working for someone who's a commercial beekeeper, to, because when you have your livelihood doing that, you better be pretty good because it's a difficult way to make a living. And in beekeeping, if you don't stay on top of it, you're going to lose a lot of bees really quickly. Um,
Definitely. I mean, the best lessons are the most costly lessons, and
yeah.
if you own your own business, you've probably forked out a lot of cash. I know I have.
Yeah, I've forked out way too much. I don't really, I know, I do not want to know how much money I've spent getting this business off the ground. It's been a lot, but it's a lot more rewarding than a lot of the other things that I've done. And I really do like the community, and I really enjoy getting to. It's my thing. I really enjoy learning about the different parts of the industry, and getting to see all the things that you guys do over there in Hawaii just is fascinating and frustrating, because I'll have a year where like we'll get 50 pounds on average because it's just a terrible year, and then you're like, yeah, it's been a great year in this nuke yard. My nukes have produced more honey than my honey production yards produce. So it's funny, but kids, if you're interested, in doing this, you need to get some experience, learn from other people's costly mistakes. We have a young man, he's pushing 19 or 20. I don't know if you've seen him online, Zach. His YouTube channel's Reindeer Bees. His name's Rainier Ike. And
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
yeah, I bet you've seen it. And he was with our Next Gen program a couple of years ago. Now he's been helping me as one of our staffers at the Expo the last couple of years. But he actually took that advice, and he's been working for a commercial guy, I think working up on 2 years, going from Georgia to almonds. Maybe they don't go to almonds as much anymore, but going to Georgia, making splits and selling bees, and making honey, and then going up to Maine and doing some pollination up there and a few other things. And so he seems to have got a good person to learn from too. So, he's teaching me stuff that they do with their operation, and they use a lot of that oxalic acid extended release, like what you're using, and they love it. They make their own strips, totally legal, and but they work really good, and they're running a few thousand hives, and now I think he's running like 100 or so hives, 50 hives on the side or whatever it is, and he's slowly building up his assets as his knowledge grows with it. So I love that. That's what I would like to see more of. It's a much smarter way of doing it than me at like 20 years old or whatever it was, trying foundationless with a couple thousand frames. Yeah.
Or treatment free.
Let's not talk about that. That's for the next video.
No, that's fun. Yeah.
Oh, it was a rough way to learn. I didn't start out that way either, but I got a hold of some information from internet gurus. You got to watch those people on YouTube and those internet sources. They're sometimes they don't have your best interest at heart. So let's get to some questions. Chris, feed us. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I have one up for you. You just ignored it.
Oh, the commercial guys are so secretive in my area. So it's been difficult to find someone that's commercial to teach me anything. What's your opinion on that, Zach? What's your thoughts on commercial beekeepers and their attitudes towards the other people in the industry? Let's put you in a hard spot here.
If somebody calls me and says, "I'll work for free," you bet your bottom I'm gonna let you come over, and then you better just watch, because that's how you learn. I mean, watching them work, the experienced person is that's what I had to do. Just watch and learn. Be quiet. Don't ask stupid questions.
Sure. And honestly, I think that's one of the best ways to do it. I have spent a few $1,000s, probably $4,000 to $5,000 in the last 6 or 7 years, on either going to your place or going to another commercial beekeepers like Chris Warner's, going to Bob Denny's, and I'll work for free. Actually, I'm paying for hotels and stuff like that myself. I have yet to have an experience with someone reputable like that where I walked away and went, I didn't break even or actually gain knowledge that was worth more than what I paid for. And so, if you're really serious about this, it could be tricky, Jason, to find some people like that in your area. That was part of my problem. It's like, I don't know any commercial guys still after 20 odd years that are close to me. Tennessee's not a great commercial beekeeping state. There's not really a lot of pollination done here. There is some, but it's not also the best honey production state and a few other things. I do love our state, but the commercial guys are mostly going to be in areas where they can make the most money. I mean, that's why we see a lot of them in Florida and some in Hawaii and some in Texas and California. I mean, you see a lot in those areas for good reason. It's good habitat for the bees, and ultimately, what's good for the bees is good for the beekeeper. So we got several questions here. Chris, you probably have
Sure.
order. You go ahead.
Yeah. Did you answer this question already?
What is the most impactful change made or lesson learned from when you started to how you operate today? Dig deep, Zach.
That's a good one. That's a real good one. See, you should have wrote that one on the questions list so I could have given it some thought.
Whoops.
The most impactful change made or lesson learned.
Listen to your buddy Kamon.
Right. I would say the instrumental insemination was it was a recent thing, but that was a big. I mean, I track if you have 64 hives in a yard and you have 10 of them or 15 of them that are mite bombs essentially. I track all that stuff, the outliers, and I was like 15 to 20% on most yards. I track all the traits, gentleness, honey production, brood production. The instrumental insemination, it improved everything all around. I mean, it made such a difference. Honey production went up. Like this year, my mite numbers are pretty good, other than, so you still see some outliers there, here and there.
So, that for you being a queen producer, you're raising thousands of queens, obviously anything that impacts things by just a handful of a percentage, or so is really beneficial long term. I remember when I was there the first time, you were keeping notes on the percentage of successful queens returning per yard and, documenting that stuff. And that kind of impressed me that you were keeping track of the productivity of the yards. And something that we've noticed here, and I don't keep track of it like you do, but I just raise maybe these days 100 queens, so it's not a lot. But some of our locations, we just struggle to get as good of takes as we do in other locations that we will put our mating yards. And I don't know what it is. But do you feel like sometimes it's more to do with the beekeeper, or is it location, or is it a little bit of both?
It's probably a little bit of all these different variables. Mm-hmm. If I give a little bit of feed in some of the wetter areas, the numbers go up. I mean, I've tried every different configuration of spacing them out, painting the box back when you were here, and we were painting all the boxes different colors and everything, and that didn't seem to make a difference. Now I pack them in as tight as I can and move around efficiently, and the feed was an increase. The amount of drone hives in the yard was an increase. The amount of bee coverage in the nuke. So if you have like a super weak one, you could add bulk bees to it. But that, as you're catching and going through them, that's just experience. You say, oh, this one looks a little different. That's a variable increase.
And so that's something that you can only get through experience. And so it sounds like Zach is looking for good, reliable help during the busy season, a gopher, so to speak. He'll feed you an apple bananas. What's the smallest box you can run doing a 21 to 28 day cycle without too much swarming? Keep in mind, I'm new and don't know too many different styles of mating nukes.
If you're new, I would just stick with the standard deep frames. You can do a 5-frame nuke, just run it that way.
So you don't think he needs to spend money on all these different knickknacks that are fancy?
No. A hive tool, a bee jacket, a smoker. I mean, I put, yeah. I put a lot of honey through a Dadant 20 frame with a chain uncapper or a hot knife even. I mean,
you've done a lot of honey through one of those.
You don't need to buy all this stuff to be successful. I mean, to be profitable. Keep the cost low, keep the bees healthy, take care of the bees, they take care of you.
Yeah. Focus on the fundamentals. And so on the mating nukes, there's a lot of different styles out there. I mean, literally tons of styles. But ultimately, if you're not doing it commercially and you're just doing a handful for yourself, I think it would be, unless you're just wanting to do it for fun, there's the fun aspect of it too. But if I'm just doing it for myself, trying to keep things simple, there's no reason why you couldn't use a 10-frame box if you're just doing a couple. Or if you want to have something a little bit smaller to keep things a little bit more controlled and hemmed in, use something that you may use throughout the rest of the year for something else, like maybe a 5-frame nuke box or something like that. But there's a lot of, I've done videos on them. There's queen castles. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. But ultimately, if I've got 10 hives and I was starting over and I was just going to do that in my backyard, 10 hives, I wanted to raise my own queens, I would use the most basic equipment. Heck, half the times we just use those Jester nuke boxes because we have them that we sell nukes in spring. We always have a bunch left over. And so we just, whenever we're dropping our queen cells in, we just put them in Jester nuke boxes because we already have them anyways. And whenever, they get too strong or we want to use them to plug into a big colony, we just combine them like that. No reason to have all this spare equipment. I have barns. My dad has barns that I've got full of knick-knack bee equipment. Shout out to my dad who's still wanting me after all these years to get rid of that bull crap.
Get him his barn back.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, what am I going to get my barn back? So I have made progress. There is significant progress being made, but years worth of just knickknacks. And I look at all these different ideas and sometimes you got to figure it out, but ultimately keep it simple. Keep it real simple and keep it affordable. What's the secret of setting up mini mating nukes? So Edward, you're talking about like those like baby nukes, those little polystyrene ones. Could you reconfirm that, Edward, please?
Yeah, those are minis, the mini styrofoam ones, mini mating nukes.
I've watched videos on how to do that. I've tried pheromones, to help lock them in, storing them for a couple nights, this amount of bees versus this amount of bees. I never experienced, I got better at it, but I never liked using those. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I tried a whole bunch with those minis. I think I have like 1,500 of them.
Gosh, dang it.
And because I got a really good deal on them. And it's cheaper to get a full pallet. I shouldn't say it's cheaper. It's more efficient to get a full pallet of something shipped in than a partial and then ordering another partial later. So yeah, I got 1,500 of them, and yeah, we spent one season trying to set them up, tweaking things, and I never really gravitated to putting them all into use. But yeah, I had pretty good success with setting them up in the evening, bulk bees, a higher concentrate sugar than 1-to-1.
Really?
In a cell that is going to hatch within a day, and then close them up, let them sit for a day, and then I took them out at dusk the next day. And then a lot of airflow through them, keeping them cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think this year, I did some extras after we set up all of those grow boxes. I just messed around with some this year, and I think I put 100 of them out, and I think I had like 98 of them. The bees stuck to them right away.
Mm-hmm. So when you set those up, you don't have any combs in them, or do you have one comb, or do you have anything to kind of, just foundation, or you just let them, how do you start them off when you were doing it?
This year, I think I had probably half of them had at least one wax, had a little bit of wax on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest was foundation.
Fun.
Yeah.
And obviously there are guys that do that quite a bit, so that it can be done. The University of Guelph has a really good video on how they do it up there, but one of the biggest frustrations for me is then once they start laying, there's really no good way to evaluate the queen either, and then you got to get them out of there really quick, and it's just
I mean that was always my problem. Like I said, because I make my calendar up at the beginning of the year,
mm-hmm.
and they don't fit into the 21-day schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So like whenever I have extra cells, I just go and look at them, and if there's nothing there, there's nothing there.
What kind of mating nukes did Zach say he uses? So you were using a kind of one. Did you reach out to Premier about making those?
Yeah, I had them make them for me.
Well, I'll talk to Premier and I'll have them have some of those at the Bee Expo this year, if nothing else, just to display. Are you getting the frames made there too, or are you getting frames from a couple different places?
Nick from Motherload.
Okay, so
we just printed a bunch of them.
Okay, so Nick is I thought Nick was making those. Is that where you're also getting the feeder for them as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the, what do you call those size of frames, like a half frame or something like that? What do you call those?
Grow box frames. I'm not sure the official commercial term for them.
Well, I don't think anybody else knows either.
I don't think so.
That's pretty much how beekeeping is. It's like, it's a deep super. No, it's a brood chamber. No, it's a deep super. There's all kinds of different things. But I think it's cool. I like it. It's fun. So he's using how you say you're able to get 4 frames to a side. Then
yeah, it could be a feeder and 4 frames. This year I'll probably do 3 frames. If there's any misses or anything like that, I can come back through and there's room to dump bulk bees back in without having to pull a frame out.
I see. So just give you a little bit more space to maneuver, and probably be a little quicker to find the queen, I would say, too, with less frames to look on.
Yeah, with the divided 5 frame or the queen castles on deep frames,
mm-hmm.
I was doing 75 boxes a day or 150 holes.
Mm-hmm.
With the littler boxes, I could probably do more. I'll just say that.
Okay, you can do a good bit more.
A bit more, yeah.
Yeah, you were catching quite a few queens when I was helping you. It was quite quick. It was impressive, and I thought I was fairly good at it, but you were probably doing at least 3 to my 1.
I'm pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was getting better towards the end. I was at least 1.2 to your 3.
Well, yeah, you got to watch me work for a little bit, and you got 25% more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And you were marking one queen. I think we were taking a picture of it, or you were just showing me something. Maybe we were filming it, or we were fixing to. But you had one that passed out. I don't know if you remember that, but she had passed out while you were holding her, and then she woke up a little bit later. But that's the first time I had seen a queen just from being held, just getting.
Yeah, sometimes they fake it too. Little sneaky girls.
Yeah, so maybe you could breed for a special bee that's kind of like the fainting goats of the bee industry.
For a while there, I was, when I was going for honey production, I was checking the singles, pretty much every 11 days. Like as I was growing, keep them from swarming.
Mm-hmm.
For a while there, I had a lot of hives that, they had mother-daughter queens.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that I could select for that. I really tried to
That would
have
be
two
so
queens
cool.
in there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you still see it here and there. Usually most people quit looking after one. If you see the first queen, you don't look anymore. But like I have too many honey production hives and too many mating nukes this year,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't even look in, I pull a frame out, look for eggs, and then that's it. And if it's good, it's good. And you just got to get through them.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something that took me a long time to learn. And I think working for somebody else would have helped me with that a lot. These 10-minute inspections, unless something bizarre is going on, that you just can't do that if you're running that many bees. You just get in there. Yep, looks like the food's good. Yep, there's a good pattern. There's eggs. All right.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think we timed it. I think we try to stay under 1.5 minutes brood checks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you're still taking like 30 seconds to get down, depending if they're stacked taller than Kamon or not, or taller than me.
Funny.
You remember my cell builders in that yard up in the MacNut yard up there, and they were like 7 boxes tall. Yeah,
they were. I would have had some type of step stool to get the top boxes off, or I would have hurt myself. So Brad's got a question for you. What are your thoughts on placing oxalic acid strips on the top bars instead of folding over in between? So this is referring to the cardboard strip. So are you using cardboard, or are you using more of a sponge?
I like the sponges. I have the cardboards too for the mating nukes. That's how I want to say it. The sponges on the top bars, as long as they're able to contact the top and the bottom.
So there needs to be, like a double deep situation or two.
Yeah, or a single with a honey super on, just as long as you're getting coverage.
Mm-hmm.
In the mating nukes, you can't do that, because you don't have honey supers on them or them stacked up. So I was draping them down between the frames, but I don't know if I'll continue doing that or not. I might just stick it in the entrance and let them walk on it.
Yeah, let them go through the entrance. But Aaron has a question for you. Kamon and Zach, what are your thoughts on Poline bees? Getting a few here soon from Bob Benny's stock. Man, I've never had Poline bees before. I don't know anyone close that has talked to me about it. You have any opinions on that, Zach?
Those are the VSH ones, yeah?
I think so.
I think so too. Yeah, I'd try them.
And do some washes late in the year after they've established, and probably next season, see how good they are at holding the mites down.
Yeah, you'll know. Always do your washes.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question. Okay, we already got to that one. So clarification, frames are double mating nukes now put into wooden nukes to fit that and a feeder. So Zach, basically we're looking at a longer box with these like half-sized frames.
Yep.
And I wish I had one here in the office. Wait, maybe I do.
Yeah, Chris, go to my Facebook page and pull up the pictures on there. I'm sure there's one there.
Here's one from the 21st Bee fellow that's been commenting. He makes the solid plastic ones. So this is I think there's some wooden and plastic foundation. There's some solid ones from Motherlode, and then 21st has come out with this one right here. So you would have 4 of these possibly on one side, and then you have a frame feeder, and then I assume there's a divider that you put in between the frame feeders.
Yep.
Okay. And so do they have just one lid? Do you have something to like keep them from getting into the next one over?
Yeah, you can put window screen up there.
I was surprised how good that worked. That seems to hold up pretty well long term.
Yeah, I mean those 5-framers that you were catching out, they still have the same window screen there. I haven't made any since I made those up.
Huh, and that's like was like a PVC window screen or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, it was. I think that one was the pet safe one because it was thicker. Like the wire width was a sturdier gauge, I think you would call that. But yeah, the nice beeswax coating on those, huh?
Oh yeah. It
The
smelled
ones
really
the ones I got from Motherlode, they weren't dipped or anything. I put my mom to work when she visited this winter and did the old crock pot dip and shake.
Yeah. That's my daughter's doing that now. She wants to do certain things, and so she actually, if she adds value to the company, we pay them a little bit of money to do things like that, and it's good because they have some of their own money, but they've worked for it, and so they're learning some valuable lessons, I think. But that's Kathleen's main job. Jimmy's mostly assembling stuff. Kathleen's waxing foundation and putting it into frames, and then they get some money to go horseback riding with or whatever, that kind of thing. But a good coat of wax makes all the difference in the world on a good experience or a bad one. So.
Let me touch on Mark's question again too. The frames are double main nukes. If you're doing the styrofoam ones, you could just pull a frame out of that and just dump bulk bees in there, and you don't have to move the frames around. You can just set them up in that styrofoam box. You could also draw the frames. You can get a grow box and draw them out on top of a hive, so you have brood, and make them up that way. Mm-hmm. I've fully embraced the bulk bee concept.
So that being you're shaking bees in these things as foundations and then feeding them to get those bulk bees that you shook in to draw those frames, and then set that up to raise queens out of. And so what Zach is also talking about is you can put them on large production colonies. There's a box that'll fit a bunch of these frames, and you can put it on top of a powerful production colony and get them to start drawing them, and then you can take that off as well. And so, these have really gained a lot of popularity in the last handful of years, it seems like. And I've visited a guy and got to use his, and I really like handling the frames. It's a nice size. I just imagine drawing them out would be the trick.
I mean, I was sending you those pictures, was it last week or no, I think it was this week. I mean, we had a whole pallet. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but it's stacked. It's a 4-way, but it's stacked as tall as I am. I don't know. It's probably like 60, like 120 of those little boxes, at least. And, each of those have 10 frames in them. I we drew them out on production hives just so that they are waxed, so that this next year when I make up the main nukes, it's all comb, so that ideally I'll be able to shake just bulk bees in them, and the comb will stick them there, and they don't have to work to draw it out. They can just go storing nectar right away, or syrup or whatever.
So that would be the ideal way, but is it possible or even practical at all to just shake some bees in there and get them to draw it themselves, or is it just kind of a pain in the rear?
I had pretty good success with the pheromone strips on foundation.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like it'd be better to get production colonies to get them drawn, though. And that seems to be any commercial guy that I know that's doing them seems to be doing that method. But yeah, I don't know as much about that kind of stuff as you do. Zach is my informant, essentially, like a lot of information, wax dipping boxes, different methods out there. We've talked a lot over
foundation.
The years. Yeah. Come on. Killing it. Yeah. The values of good plastic foundation. We've talked a lot about different mite treatments and ratios and stuff over the years and stuff like that. And Zach's, it's been cool. And a lot of times, one of the bigger advantages maybe of being in Hawaii is, for me, is that Zach's testing stuff all the time, even when I'm dormant here. And so, Zach's able to still do some stuff, even when he wants a break, just can't get one.
I know you push having comb on hand all the time. I sure wish that we can get shipping cheaper, and I could just ship out drawn frames and ship in foundation.
Oh yeah. That'd be nice.
It would be so nice.
You just ship me some comb every year. Just ship some medium supers would be nice, please. Just ship some over here. I know kind of the reasons why they do some of it, but it was super disappointing to see that post that Ian Stepler, about them not changing the ruling on the borders.
I agree.
So for those of you who maybe have heard me talk about it or even don't know what's going on is with Throttle laps moving through Asia and into parts of Europe now. It's of growing concern that Canada is importing bees from multiple countries to Canada to supply their bees. But they won't allow imports from the United States. And this has been going on for a long time. And it got shut down many years ago due to multiple things. It got shut down around tracheal mites. And got shut down one more time, I believe, it was either Africanized bees or Varroa. I can't remember which one. But after that time, it has not opened up since. And some of the concerns is we would get the Africanized bees that we have in the southernmost parts of the United States up there, which has long been proven that's not going to be an issue. We don't even have Africanized bees in Tennessee, haven't forever. If they were going to get up this far, they would have done it by now. The biggest concern, of course, is that if Canada does ship in some packages or whatever, like they do, and it has Throttle laps, well, it's right into the North America. And as much as people want to say that there's an imaginary line between Canada and the United States, I mean, what they have, we're going to have at some point. That's just the way that it is. If it can make it that far north, it's going to get there. And so that's a little bit of, they ruled that it was a non-issue. I guess at this point, there's no reason to change. I think it would be better because we have a lot of guys in the U.S. that produce really good, clean bees, and they'd be healthier than what they could get somewhere else because they're not having to be shipped near as far. We could just truck them up. Doesn't even have to be on comb. So that's a little bit disappointing.
I would think just from the standpoint of having systems in place for, if your European supplies dry up, I don't know what percentages they're shipping in from those countries, but I would think you'd want things in place to fill that gap if you need to.
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought of that. If they did get shut down, they could be in trouble pretty quick. And some people are saying, well, Canada needs to just be sustainable and produce its own bees. I think there is some of that, but you could also argue that some of the beekeepers in the U.S. need to be more sustainable and be better. But I mean, how do you control that?
Yeah,
you don't.
I don't know. I always enjoy the breed for your local environment bees.
Yeah,
and you don't really say anything, but man, Canada gets a lot of queens from Hawaii, and those are about as opposite as you can get. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Well, there's the person who's going to be like, well, they're not having good success overwintering up there. So, there you go. That's why they're having such bad success. But I would argue to that, if they were so good at doing it themselves, they wouldn't be importing bees in the first place. They've tried it. It's a difficult place for bees. There are certain areas, it's just not really a natural place for honeybees to exist. You go so far north, and That's why they have to insulate the heck out of them or put them in storage facilities. And some people are like, well, then they shouldn't be up there. Well, come on. I mean, I guess we shouldn't be up there either. I think it's kind of a silly statement to make.
Well, like from a financial standpoint, you can bring a package in for whatever it is Canadian. Is the Canadian producer giving up their honey crop to make the packages for other Canadians?
Sure.
I mean, I'm watching those videos. Those boxes get stacked up pretty tall. I would like to see what a hive looks like that has given a package or two.
Mm-hmm.
Do they make anywhere near that amount of honey? Probably not.
Probably not. In Canada, that's part of the problem with a lot of Canada, especially the more tougher areas to keep bees, is you have such an abbreviated season. You can't make splits near as much, or it's going to take away from your honey crop or whatever else you're wanting to do. And, there's guys that I know in Alberta. I mean, they're just making, in an average year, just making crazy amounts of honey, 300 pounds, 400 pounds a hive. And so you're telling me that in the middle of Alberta, they're going to be taking the time to make packages and ship them when they can make that kind of honey, and it's just, I don't think so. I
mean, from a financial standpoint, I would think if you flood the market with U.S. packages, well, if I could buy a $75 package or $100 package, I guess I don't know what packages are in the U.S. anymore. It's been long enough that I bought one.
Well, from the hobbyist standpoint, they're getting really, really high. It's $130, $140 if you don't know how to source them good. And that's if you're getting them like on a bee club buy around here. Now, if you're buying them from Man Lake and having them shipped to your door, it's a $200 deal almost. But then if you know the right people and you can get on some good group buys, you can still get packages for around $100.
Well, yeah. So say you get a package for $100 and they make 300 pounds of honey. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what they're able to do, is they get them up there so darn early, and especially if they have come for them, they just they beef them up, and by the time the flow starts, they're a strong double or darn close to it, and make honey off of those bees the first year. And that's been going on for a long time. That's the advantage of the progress that we've made as a society, where we have people in the South able to do things that people in the North can't do, but the people in the North are producing honey during times of the year where you have a longer day length. And also, you have a few other advantages to up north. There's some really good sweet clover and canola areas up there for honey production. So is it a perfect system? Absolutely not. But you're dealing with imperfect human beings, and so therefore it never will be. I think the main thing is the bee industry needs to do a better job of taking care of its own business, and that's going to require a lot of involvement and a lot more people willing to work together. I'm not just talking Canadians versus Americans, but us U.S. folks trying to work to protect the industry. And there's a lot of reasons to protect it right now. Tropical Laps is a scary deal. Tropical Laps in Hawaii would be fun, wouldn't it, Zach?
Yeah, I'd put the formic acid in the rabbit feeder and just let it drip 24/7.
Just let them vape that formic acid. Yeah, I hope that it takes a long, long time, but you just never know what's going to happen next. And it's why it's so important for everyone to be willing to work together. So, Chris, we have a couple other questions here. I think I've seen a few that have hit.
You guys have really hit most of them. So
okay.
There's a couple things for you to hit on later.
Okay. So Mike has one. Speaking of foundation, why the heck aren't plain drone plastic foundation? Why isn't it made so that we can use our own wood frames? And I've got to say that it must be supply and demand. How many people are actually going to buy it? And that's really what it comes down to, as a numbers thing. It's a lot of the dealers that come to my conference have stopped selling 8-frame equipment, and people are like, Kamon, why aren't people doing 8-framers? but it takes inventory space. It takes more website SKUs. It's just another variable. And, for every 10 frame box, for every 8 frame box, they're selling 80, 10 frame boxes. It's just, they look at it from a number standpoint on, how many people are actually going to buy drone plastic foundation. So I think that's what it really comes down to, is a cost thing. But I could be wrong. Maybe there's a conspiracy of beekeepers that are anti-male drones, and they're wanting to keep them down. I don't know.
I don't know, the convenience of having a frame that's easily visible, that just makes sense. I mean, I don't want to look through 10 frames of wooden frames to try to find the one that's the drone frame. And I don't want to paint hundreds of more frames green when I can just buy a plastic drone frame and put it in the hive.
100%. 21st Bee is the gentleman who makes all these solid plastic frames, and I just showed you one. And he's just like, inventory space and equipment, our space is money. And then there's also the injection mold process and all the R&D that goes into it too. And so if you're like, okay, well, by the time I calculate everything into this, I'm $80,000, $100,000 in on a drone frame. I mean, how long is it going to take to recoup that?
Exactly.
I guess is the question.
Yeah,
and especially as a small business, but even Man Lake, they've been downsizing certain things. Some of the things are a little bit, it's been a bummer to not have, but they look at it from a number standpoint. This is what makes us really real money. This is what doesn't. I would argue there are some products that are kind of fan favorites that, whether they're a big ticket item or not, you still keep them anyhow. Because everybody should be in the business of making fans. They're the ones that rep you the best and tell folks about you and say, hey, man, you got to buy from these people. So Drew has a question. Zach, when and what do you notice when using Formic? I love it. It's in my hives right now.
I wish that we would get experimental use for Formic so I could talk about it. But yes, formic acid's good. I love it. I use the legal version all the time.
Yeah.
Yes, I do cough when I put it on the hives.
Yes. Well, your previous job, when you originally went to Hawaii working for another company, and then eventually went off and did your own thing, but they were using the Mite-Away Quick Strips, was it, or was it the Formic Pro?
Yeah, it was the Mite-Away Quick Strips. They were a organic honey company, and the only thing that was approved was formic acid. And so we were just using formic acid, and we made a lot of honey using it. And we were using it. It was like, I think you were down in Puako with me, right? The desert portion of the island. Yeah. I don't remember if you were down there, but it was like 95 and probably like 120 with the lava rock below us.
Yeah, the lava rocks, you could have cooked an egg on that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I was using formic every 3 months. And gosh, those bees made a lot of honey.
They did. And I think that one of the things, the nuance with formic, because it can set your bees back, but are you putting it on a strong colony? I think some people are putting a heavy dose on something that may be already on its back foot. And then also it's like, are you applying it after the damage has already been done to your bees? And because formic will burn any holes that are in the bees. So if your bees are, totally eaten up with mites, it's just going to it's going to cause some damage. And I think the other thing that I would say with formic, I think a lot of people see is, one of the nice things about being in Hawaii is, okay, maybe if you did have an issue, you still have good nutrition typically in a lot of places. And so your bees, even if they take a little bit of a hit, the nutrition's coming in, they bounce back from it. So people that wait too late in the year, the fall flow is very inconsistent a lot of times, and there's just not a lot of time left. So if you wait too late to treat, you're not giving your bees enough time to bounce back. or if you're going into a long extended dearth period. So I personally, I've used Formic a decent bit, not as much as Zach. It does really good on strong colonies. But the small colonies with the pads, I struggle.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm shipping queens, I get inspected by the state every 3 months, and then that's alcohol wash mite sampling. We do our own sampling in all the yards too, and I really like staying ahead of the mites. So formic acid hasn't really been a problem in terms of like treating a hive and having a major issue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jed, the welding guy.
Yeah, I'm late to the party. What do I miss? We already talked about you like an hour and 20 minutes ago, man.
The after party's on B Source at 10 p.m.
That's right. Well, see, used to B Source had a chat group, and they don't have it anymore. And that was really where the most fun was, and you would get some funny conversations, and then and you get some interesting chats. And this is years ago. This is probably what, 2007, 2006. And so Facebook and YouTube were not what they are now, and so there was a lot of commercial guys back then, a lot of big boys on B Source. So you get a lot of nuggets back then. There's still some stuff going on B Source, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely diminished as people have moved to other platforms.
Yeah, I remember trying to get like a chat for beginners could come in and ask questions on B Source. And yeah, I mean, look at YouTube now. Now you have like, there's a chat any night of the week with all these different YouTubers.
And I thought it would never work too. That's the funny part. Laura was like,
right.
Let's do this. And what really, when I started my YouTube channel, I visited you 2 or 3 months after I started it. The first time I visited you in Hawaii. And what really got me somewhat to the point that I thought that maybe I could actually do this is I had a couple hundred subscribers, maybe 200 or 300 at that point. That's not what put me to that point. Is when I visited you, and you'd come home after we'd worked bees all day and we'd eat dinner, and you had 2 or 3 people or 4 that you really liked to watch on YouTube, and some of them were showing different types of foods that they liked, that were neat. They go to different restaurants. One guy was repurposing stuff that was, some of it was pretty nice stuff out of a garbage, a dump.
Yeah.
And it's like, it must have been a rich neighborhood. We don't have that kind of stuff here in Gainesboro. But you went home and you didn't turn on, the satellite or something. You turned on YouTube, and that really blew me away, because I didn't grow up with television. We had a VHS player, eventually a DVD player, but we either rented stuff or maybe watched some old stuff. So I didn't understand that YouTube would actually work, especially in the space of beekeeping. And here we are, only about 6 years down the road, and we're not just talking YouTube, but we're talking Bee Expo. And who would have thunk?
Who would have thought?
Yeah, Zach's got several things. He's like, I told you so. And I'm like, dang it. How do we get a hold of Zach if we want queens early spring? I told you there would be somebody like that. So what's the situation with your queens?
I was gonna say too, I got a couple messages already on the Facebook. Yeah. So pretty much there really isn't openings until like June. Like I said, I mentioned earlier that I do my calendar in December. Mm-hmm. So like if you got queens, say the second week of January, I call him up and I say, do you want the same number? And I don't think from January to May, January to April, I don't think I've ever had anybody like not say they don't want them. Right. Anyway,
it is the way that it is, though. I mean, if you do a good job and people like it, someone almost has to die for
pretty
that
much
spot to open up. And
like especially the March guy, he's younger than I am, and
really,
I doubt he'll give that spot up.
Well, that's a good problem for you to have. I know that you usually don't do anything less than like at least a box full of queens too.
Yeah. So if I do have, because I try not to disappoint anybody, right? So if I'm catching, say, 100 holes in a week, I'll sell, say, 50% of those, just so I don't disappoint anybody, right? Obviously, I'll produce more than 50%. So if I have extras, I post on my Facebook page, and usually they're gone that night or the next night. But if you do want to get some, the minimum's 28. You have to pick them up at a UPS store, and I don't charge anybody until the bees arrive and they're all alive, and then I'll send you an invoice.
Yeah, and then I maybe get around to paying it in a couple of months or something like that.
I've only had one guy not pay, but yeah,
that wasn't me.
No, that wasn't you. They all ultimately they pay in the end. they sooner or later they want something, and then they have to pay.
That's right. Well, and this is a small industry. Word gets around pretty quickly. It's interesting to watch some people. You're like, that person's eventually going to fizzle out, and sometimes it takes you a couple of years longer than you think it will. But true to form, many of them do. You can only screw so many people over in an industry this size, and I think it's just a characteristic of that personality anyhow. But Zak's had very good queens for me the last couple of years, and it's been tricky for me to get them as well. And I'm on the buddy list, and I still have a hard time getting queens. So, but you got to think of it from Zak's standpoint, where he's focused on raising all these thousands of queens on a schedule, and that's what really makes it tricky. People that have extra higher quality queens are not going to ever have a problem selling them, and it's so much easier to ship 400 to one guy versus trying to drive it all the way for 4 queens. And that's why we don't do a lot of that stuff either. If you had a big organization, a bunch of employees, maybe you can make it make sense, but you don't have a bunch of minions. You should have you need to get some kids going, Zak. I'm telling you.
Nah,
it takes a little while for the investment to turn over, like quite a while, and a few more gray hairs, but whatever. No. So
I'm gonna by that logic, I'm gonna keep my youthful complexion for a very long time, and my hair. Woo.
Yeah. So Chad, this is a compliment for me. I came in one of your nukes I sourced from you this spring, Toledo pickup. I have made 3 walkaway splits, and I've also filled 3 honey supers. Really glad to hear that for you, Chad. That was our hope. And again, this is where the advantages of getting bees from people further south, because he's able to get bees from me, and his season still has so much time left on it that those bees can do so much more than if I sold it to somebody in Tennessee or Alabama. So that's what we like to see, is people make enough to at least pay for the nuke or close to it off of the first year. Interesting was an understatement. We were talking about how you were a little less mature, but that's because you were a little bit younger than us. I think it was primarily what Zak was saying earlier. I think it was Zak that said that.
No, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And how much further you would be along in your manufacturing business if you just heed the words of your elders, aka Zak and I. I think we're like 2 years older than he is, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I don't think it's much.
It's not much. So this has been a super awesome chat. I want to thank you for your time, Zak.
Yeah, definitely.
I've wanted to have you on for a long time, and the information that you share with me has been really helpful for my family, and I'm sure that you've helped several people here tonight, and for the people who are listening to this long term. And whether you like it or not, you're the future of the industry. You're already doing stuff now, but the commercial beekeeper on average is quite old, and you're not yet.
Aren't they like 65 now? Or 70?
It's like 65 plus.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we need more people like you to continue to do what you're doing, and help educate us new people and also provide good queens and maybe get involved in the industry, the expo. And yeah, so carve out some time for that great North American Honeybee Expo. I've heard so much about it. It's great. The guy that runs it is super humble. There's rumors that he's driving a stolen truck, but
Oh, jeez.
those are baseless.
Chris is like squirming in his chair now.
Yeah, Chris is fixing to hit the mute button.
Hovering the mute button.
My lawyer just sneezed. He's like, man, something's going on somewhere. But all jokes aside, that's been so much in the rear view mirror. But I still get probably every few weeks somebody that will say something about that to me, and it's at this point it's gotten comical. But no, our expo continues to grow, but where we want to do more is to see if there's something that we can do and really facilitate a place for people like yourself and others to be able to hopefully fix the industry a little bit. I think there's a lot that can be done. I don't think I'm the person to do it, but I think it's going to take several people. And you being one of the young guys of the industry, we expect a lot from you. So, no pressure, man. And I'm putting you on the spot. So you guys, you're going to hear a lot more from Zak Heintzelman in the future. And, guys like him and Blake and several others, we appreciate all you do for our industry. And I appreciate the queens that I've gotten from you. I've ordered a bunch of crap over the years, and I haven't ever got a bad match from you. So don't let it go to your head, though. Everyone, thanks for your comments and for all that stuff. We're going to let Zak go, and then we're going to probably do a thing or two more. Zak, thank you so much,
thank
my
you.
friend.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to me talk about bees for, what's the time? An hour and 52 minutes.
That's right. Well, if you ever need anything, Zak, you know how to get a hold of me, and this won't be the last time we have you on for sure.
Sure. Anytime.
All right. Enjoy that tropical weather. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Aloha.
All right. Thanks again, Zak. What a fun